Hey, what's up, Stay Tuners? It's your good friend Jimbo here, letting you know that today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member and you can too. Apply today and let them know that you heard from Stay Tuned Sports and you start earning today. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
You heard the rest. Now here's the best Stay Tuned Sports Podcast.
And hello there, and happy New Year's Eve, everyone out there. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here, calming back down from a eventful Christmas. Christmas gifts and all that lovely stuff. Hopefully you guys all got your stuff from Santa Claus and all that lovely stuff. Got some of my Funko dolls, pop dolls for Mandalorian. My wife got me that stuff, plus a meat grinder so I can start doing my kibasi. But I'm sure you guys don't want to hear about all that stuff. Probably want to hear me talking about NFL and upcoming Notre Dame Alabama game. Hopefully it's a better game than what it was with Clemson. But before we head into the show, head over to staytunesports.net. That way you could follow all of our social media accounts, which is on the right hand side there. And up on the top there is the merch tab. I actually have a new logo just made up this past weekend. You're going to start seeing that hopefully on the Stay Tuned Sports iRacing cars and the iRacing trucks of Josh Sobel and Scott Crump. So I'm getting that all set up. And, we'll have some t-shirts and everything like that as well. So, jumping into it, I was thinking about trying to figure out, the best, top sports stories of 2020. But I'm like, 2020 kind of sucked. I mean, let's all be honest. I mean, coronavirus halted sports back in March with the NBA, then hockey followed suit, and baseball started late. UFC, they did their own thing. They quote bought an island, even though it wasn't an island, it was just land. When you think of land, you think of like Gilligan's Island. But here we are, 2020. Football season is last week of the season this week, which will probably maybe be our last blue picks. I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate maybe hockey and basketball into it too, since hockey will be starting in 2 weeks, I believe. I think January 17th is the opening night, which is kind of interesting for my Flyers because they actually open up at home. Gotta move my chair over a little bit there. At home against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Wednesday night hockey at 5:30 in the afternoon. So I'll actually be able to get a chance to watch them. Hopefully the Flyers have a better season than my Eagles, and the way the Phillies are sounding better than they are. So this past weekend in the NFL, Jacksonville Jaguars locked up the number one draft pick spot, which was occupied by the Jets for 14 weeks. They went 0-14 before they won a game, which put Jacksonville up there, and then beat the Cleveland Browns this past weekend, barely, with Cleveland not having any receivers on the team because of COVID. So Jacksonville Jaguars are number one, Jets are number two, and now the question becomes, will Trevor Lawrence enter the draft? Now he could go back to Clemson for his senior year. I know a few weeks ago he made a statement of holding off and seeing what he wants to do and all this other stuff. And people kind of read it as if the Jets draft me, or if the Jets are in the number 1 spot to take him, he will come back for his senior year. Now with the Jaguars, I think it might be a little bit more enticing. Jacksonville may be looking at a new head coach after the season. And if you look at the team, it's not all that bad. I mean, it's a very, very young team. Right now it's bad because they're all, like I said, they're young. You know, offensively, they're only scoring like 20 points a game or so. Their defense, which they traded for a few people, you think that defense would have been a lot better, is actually giving up 30 points a game, which could be because of the offense not being that good. But if you look at that offense, they have a running back that has over 1,000 yards rushing. When was the last time? 3-4 years ago maybe. So if the Jaguars were to draft Trevor Lawrence, he's already walking in with a good running game, which we're seeing with the Eagles, at least in the first half of Jalen Hurts starts, which I'll get to. The running game is taking pressure off of Jalen Hurts. Running game is a quarterback's best friend. Keeps those defenders out of that box, up in the box, worried about the run, which then opens up over the top. Then if you look at the receivers, they're not household names, but they have 2 of them that have over 600 yards receiving. And then when you factor in too that the Jaguars have the number 1 draft pick, plus I believe either a late first round pick or an early second round pick to add more weapons to that offense or build up the offensive line to make sure Trevor Lawrence doesn't get beat up too bad, like a David Carr or Carson Wentz the past 2 years, and Jalen Hurts. I mean, he got sacked quite a few times against Arizona. And they have $75 million in cap space. So, I mean, they are loaded if they can land Trevor Lawrence. Now, here's my only thing, and I've said this a couple times. You hear a lot of people saying, oh, he's a generational talent, once in a lifetime type talent. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's going to be a Tom Brady. I don't think he's going to be a Peyton Manning. But he's going to be better than what the Jaguars are putting out there now. Now, on the flip side, would he have been better to go to the Jets? Absolutely not. That team is so terrible from top to bottom. I mean, yes, they got a good handful of draft picks themselves. But how is Adam Gase still have a job? He went 0-14. His record was just as terrible last year. How does he still have a job? So if I was Lawrence, I'd be worried that they would keep him around another year. And I would pull a Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ryan Leaf situation. And just sit out. But with the Jaguars, I think he's going into a very good situation there. If they draft him, I mean, hey, stranger things have happened. Well, let's not forget Mike Ditka and Ricky Williams unloading his whole draft just to pick him. This coming Friday, I should say tomorrow, if you guys are listening to this on Thursday, we have the semifinal college playoff games kicking off with Notre Dame versus Alabama. Notre Dame, a huge underdog, 19.5 point underdogs. And you know what, rightfully so, especially after how they played against Clemson and how well Alabama's been playing. This is going to be an uphill battle. I think this is going to be more of a challenge than the Clemson game. And a lot of questions may be brought up after this game too, if Notre Dame loses as bad as everybody thinks they're going to. Now, if you go down the stats and look at the stats, I mean, we're outmatched. Let's be honest here. We're completely outmatched from top to bottom. Ian Book, his passing yards are nowhere near Alabama's quarterback. Najee Harris has 24 touchdowns on the year. I mean, he's a beast of a back. He's going in the first round. You could probably count how many first round players they have on that team on two hands. Notre Dame, you probably could count on three fingers, if you're lucky. The only way I see Notre Dame pulling up the biggest upset is their corners got a lockdown. Trevor Lawrence exposed them when they played 2 weeks ago. And they got to get pressure on that quarterback, knock him around, make him force some throws and maybe get some turnovers. And then Ian Book's got to play lights out quarterback play. Can't be turning the ball over. We got to get the running game going. Running game's been our strength all year. Once we get that running game going, Ian Book seems to settle in there and gets the offense going. But we got to play a perfect game. And here's my question is, if Notre Dame loses to Alabama, especially if it's a huge blowout, at what point does Notre Dame start questioning about Kelly? Very good regular season coach. I think he's third most wins in Notre Dame history, coaching wise. But you look at his title game record. 2012, Alabama got blown out. Clemson, 2 years ago, blown out. Just 2 weeks ago, got blown out. So the questions are going to start, I think, coming up if he doesn't pull off a win somehow here. And at some point, you got to show that you're more than just a regular season coach. You're a championship coach. You don't get hired by these teams just to win regular season games. They're just like the NFL and Major League Baseball. They're hiring you to win championships, which brings more money to them, brings more talented players to the program, not just the regular seasons. So how do I think this game's going to go? I'll be completely honest. I'm going to tune in. We will be going on Podbean Live again. Seems like you guys are having some good interactions with us and some good arguments there. Just like last week or 2 weeks ago with Chill Will arguing with us over Ohio State. Obviously, he was an Ohio State fan. But make sure you guys download the Podbean app. That way you guys could chime in and listen to us. But I'm keeping my expectations low. I'm expecting a blowout. I'm expecting what everybody's expecting. I will be beyond happy and probably maybe even crying a little bit that if we pull off the upset and beat Alabama, because I still remember 2012 sitting next to King at my dad's bar with about 3 minutes left in the game saying, "Is the game over yet?" Because I kept saying to him, we still have a chance. Yeah, that's how drunk I was. So this past week was Jalen Hurts' third start of his NFL career, going up against Jesus Christ, who did they play? It was just that bad of a game that Dallas Cowboys. It was just that bad of a game that I just pretty much zoned out of the game. Typical Jalen Hurts start, really good first half, and then second half just got clamped down. And it was funny because Deshaun Jackson made his comeback not even a comeback. He was only targeted one play, but that play mattered. 81-yard touchdown. And after the game, Doug Peterson said that his injury was starting to flare up again. So that's why he got basically put on a pitch count. But went up 14-0 and then just stalled. And here's the thing that I was worried about too, was after going up 14-0, I started thinking that may have been all their scripted plays. You know how they always talk about having 15 to 20 scripted plays. And then the second half came about and the Cowboys just ran away with it. I believe they outscored us like 27 to 3 or something like that. I mostly blame this game on Doug Peterson, especially after watching his post-game press conference, and I blame Jim Schwartz. So the first half even, our cornerback, Jaquette, was getting torched by a third-string wide receiver, Michael Gallup, who plays behind CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. At what point do you say, okay, you know, he's not the answer there, we gotta pull him, we gotta bench him? No, they waited till the second half after the game was starting to get away from them, which actually really wasn't. They were only down by 10. The running game, first half, was doing really well. And then all of a sudden, typical Eagles game, just left. And that I blame Doug Peterson for. But the next day I saw Reuben Frank, the One Philly reporter, writer, post on Twitter a stat that was quite interesting. You know, a lot of people said Wentz was the problem and having a terrible year, and you know, no one wants to play for him, this and that. Now, if you really look back at all the games he played in, offensive always started off slow, and then he would come on in the second half. Well, here's a little thing about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' first half stats in his first 3 starts, passing 63% with 5 touchdowns, no INTs, has 123 passer rating with 54 points in the first half. Second half, 49% passing completion, 1 touchdown, 3 INTs, 58.3 passer rating with 13 points. So obviously, and this is not a bash, you know, let's bash Jalen Hurts here. This is just proven that it's not just the quarterback position. Both quarterbacks are having issues, which is because of talent that you have around, you know, offensive line injuries. You know, Peterson for 2 weeks now has admitted that those injuries are affecting the offense, and also penalties. We had 6 false starts in this game. Week 15. Or week 16, I'm sorry. By this point, all those small, you know, timing issues should be out and done. Now, is it Jalen Hurts not being loud enough? Is it, you know, what is it? You know, at this point, everybody should be on the same page. I will say, though, about Jalen Hurts, you know, so just so you guys don't think I'm completely bashing him and all this stuff, because I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just don't think the quarterback position is the main problem of this team. But in the first half, the touchdown that he stepped out on the 2 or 3 yard line, that looked like he made it in. I'll give him kudos, man. He saw just the cornerback sitting there waiting for him at the goal line and just put his head down and trucked them. Like I said, granted, he stepped out the 2 or 3 yard line, but that showed he's not afraid to push for those extra yards. Now, if we could only get better talent around these two, I think I don't think there's a way you could keep both of these guys on the same team next year just because of all the drama that caused this year. I don't think we could get a first round pick for Jalen Hurts, but I think we could get definitely a third, maybe recoup the second that we used on him. And going into the season when we knew that we were going to be in salary cap hell next season, there was always talks of, Carson Wentz possibly restructuring his contract, Fletcher Cox, Zach Ertz. I don't see Carson Wentz restructuring it, especially after this year. So you're going to make him the scapegoat and then come back to him and say, hey, we need you to take a pay cut to help out the team here to get underneath. No. If that was me and you're trying to repair our relationship, I'm telling you, trade me. Trade me to the Jets even. Just get me out of here. And for some of these former players to say he's not mentally tough, how can he not be mentally tough? Look at all the major injuries he had to endure on top of the shadow of Nick Foles, now the shadow of Jalen Hurts, and a GM that hasn't helped him at all. So, this week we have the Washington Redskins. Again, I'm torn about this game. If we lose, we get a top 5 pick, but we're guaranteed a top 10 pick right now. I want to see Alex Smith make it to the playoffs and do his best to win a Super Bowl. So the division is still open. Dallas is playing the Giants. Philly's playing Washington. If Washington beats us, Washington wins the division. If Washington loses, whoever wins the Dallas Giants game wins the division. If Alex Smith is not starting, I'm rooting for my Eagles. If he's starting, I'm rooting for the Redskins. Well, no. I'm rooting for Alex Smith. Sorry, I can't say the R word no more. And if I really had to root for anything, I actually would root for the Cowboys just so they could screw up their draft pick and win the division. Because they could get anywhere from a 12th to 15th draft pick. Or if they win the division, they get 20th or lower draft pick. So hopefully Dallas kind of just screws himself somehow. So before we go, this will be our last NFL blue picks for the season.
4th and 5. Jones steps up, takes off, he's in! Touchdown!
3rd down and 3. Jackson has all day. Looking deep for Hollywood Brown again. He's got it! Brown off to the races! And he stays on his feet! Touchdown!
And here is your blue picks of the week. Brought to you by Skunk Duck Studios, the best ducking designs on the web. That's right. So, actually, for the last week of the season, I kept my notes from last week to see how I actually did as far as the blue picks. So, last week I took the Bills over the Patriots. We all know how that ended. Bears over the Jags. We all know how that ended. And then I went for the upset with the Giants over the Ravens. Didn't work out as well as I was hoping for. So, if last week was any indication of how I've been doing this year, 60% is not bad. So this week, we are doing our week 17 blue picks. And just to kind of go back over what they are, the blowout is any team that beats the other team by 9 points or more. Lock is obviously, the team's going to win it. Upset is anybody that is a 5-point or more underdog and upsets the team. So, to kick it off, for the blowout, I have the Colts over the Jags. Like I said earlier, Jags are just too young yet. Not sure if all the talent's there yet, but it's starting to get there. Plus, Colts being a 14-point favorite just tells you how good and how much better the Colts are to the Jaguars. Plus, Indy is fighting for a playoff spot, but they do have a lot of ways to make it to the playoffs. So I don't think they're going to say any starters at any point, unless it's like a 40-0 game like the Buccaneers-Lions game this past week. That was freaking terrible. Then for my lock pick, I have Baltimore over the Bengals. Baltimore's favored by 13. Last time the Ravens played Cincinnati a few weeks ago, they actually lost. The Bengals lost 27-3. And talent-wise, you just don't know. I mean, they're young, but is the right talent there yet? We see, like, the Jaguars, like I said, they have a good running back. We see the talent there already. Joe Burrow, he was showing promise until he had the bad leg injury. And then, much like the Colts, the Ravens basically hold their fate in their own hands. Win, and they're in. My upset pick is the same upset pick I did last time these two teams played each other. Taking the Browns over the Steelers. Browns are 10-point underdog. They lost to the Jets last week, even though they basically had the Peanuts guy as a wide receiver. They're fighting for a playoff spot, much like the rest of these teams. And it came out that Big Ben is sitting this week. So it's going to be interesting, too, if how the whole Myles Garrett Rudolph meetup goes. Is there going to be another brawl where Myles Garrett and Rudolph learned a lesson from each other? So that is my final NFL 2020 season blue pick. Definitely will bring it back next year. Like I said, I may bring it out here or there with hockey season right around the corner. But head over to staytunesports.net. That way you could click our social medias there, and I think even the Podbean link is there too. Merch tabs up top. Want to wish all you guys that are listening and girls happy holidays. Please be safe. Don't drink and drive. Let's try to end this year on a good note.